New game. Choose game mode, story mode, explore mode. Put on your headphones, close your eyes, and watch the story in your imagination. Click the play. Edgar Allan Poe. The Oval Portrait.
Apennine Mountains, Italy, 1838.
Sir, I found a trace! This way!
Servant Pedro is calling from the right. Press the right arrow on your keyboard to turn right.
Here! I'm in front of you, sir!
To go forward, press the up arrow.
I think I can see the path.
Close. They're close. Let's find out what they're debating so much.
Sir, it's dangerous out there.
My dear Pedro, what would the life be without satisfying curiosity with a little adventure?
Sir, I strongly insist you not to stray from the path.
Stay where you are, Pedro. Be right back.
To turn left to the crows, press the left arrow key. Enter the area in front of you.
Whoa! Ah, sneaky rogues. Poor Pedro would have nothing to scrape me off the bottom of this abyss. I owe him an apology for my recklessness. I have to carefully step back.
To go back, press the down arrow. To go back, press the down arrow.
Is everything alright, sir?
Indeed, my friend. And thank you for your concern.
Follow Pedro using the arrows.
Oh no, I will not go back to the abyss.
This way! Here! Did something happen, sir?
I can hear music.
Music?
Yes. It's drawing me to something.
I don't think I can understand it, sir.
Neither do I. But trust me, this time I'm not going to mindlessly risk.
Follow the music. If at any point you get lost, press the spacebar to hear a help sound and follow it.
Something's there.
A danger?
Something more. Our fate.
Attention! Slippery stones!
Careful, Pedro. Our horses are definitely not Pegasi.
I hope the trail will be gentler beyond this slope.
Let us pause for a moment, my friend, and listen to the music of this little creature. Have you ever wondered, dear Pedro, why a bird sings?
I think, sir, that he wants to interest the bird maiden in his petite person.
Can a bird really want something? Do we create beauty and harmony by the power of our will? Or do they flow from the nature of the world?
A grove at last.
It looks like more travelers are using this trail.
I wonder, sir, if we can make it to the pass before dusk.
Nights can be cold, and there are dangers in the shadow of the mountains.
It's suspiciously quiet here.
The path looks safe.
My horse became anxious. Keep your eyes peeled, Pedro.
Sir, have you heard?
Yes. Keep the dagger close at hand.
Banditi!
Go! Don't stop!
Sir, you are bleeding. I'll try to dress the wound.
I'm afraid I can't go any further.
Let's at least try to walk around this mountain in front of us. We must find a shelter from rain and wind.
The sun had been set above an hour, but the horizon still retained somewhat of a saffron brilliancy, and the whole dome of the sky had an appearance of transparency, peculiar to this enchanting climate, which seemed to diffuse a more soothing twilight over the reposing world. In the southeast, the outline of Vesuvius appeared distinctly, but the mountain itself was dark and silent.
Sir, I'm afraid Vesuvius is in a different province.
Don't worry, Pedro, I haven't lost my mind. The fever brought me an excerpt from a novel by a great writer.
Sir, I can see the castle. Hold on a little longer.
My fever had been excessive and of long duration. All the remedies attainable in this wild Apennine region had been exhausted to no purpose. My valet and sole attendant in the lonely chateau was too nervous and too grossly unskillful to venture upon letting blood, of which indeed I had already lost too much in the affray with the banditti. Neither could I safely permit him to leave me in search of assistance.
Hey, is anyone here? We need help. Hey, travelers in need. We have no hostile intentions. Sir, it looks like no one's here. The buildings are well kept. Probably the owners have recently left. hold on to me, sir. I'll get you on your horse. Wait here, sir. I'll be back in a moment. Please lean on me. We need to get to the door. We are already at the door. You will rest in a moment. Damn, it's locked. Sir, hold on to that railing. I have to use the pick lock. Let's go.
The chateau into which Pedro had ventured to make forcible entrance, rather than permit me, in my desperately wounded condition, to pass a night in the open air, was one of those piles of commingled gloom and grandeur which have so long frowned among the Apennines, not less in fact than in the fancy of Mrs. Radcliffe. To all appearance it had been temporarily and very lately abandoned. We established ourselves in one of the smallest and least sumptuously furnished apartments. It lay in a remote turret of the building. Its decorations were rich, yet tattered and antique. Its walls were hung with tapestry and bedecked with manifold and multiform armorial trophies, together with an unusually great number of very spirited modern paintings in frames of rich gold and arabesque. In these paintings, which depended from the walls not only in their main surfaces, but in very many nooks which the bizarre architecture of the chateau rendered necessary, in these paintings my incipient delirium perhaps had caused me to take deep interest. So that I bade Pedro to close the heavy shutters of the room, since it was already night, to light the tongues of a tall candelabrum which stood by the head of my bed, and to throw open far and wide the fringed curtains of black velvet which enveloped the bed itself. I wished all this done that I might resign myself, if not to sleep, at least alternately to the contemplation of these pictures, and the perusal of a small volume which had been found upon the pillow, and which purported to criticize and describe them. I need to walk quietly so as not to wake Pedro. I need to walk quietly so as not to wake Pedro. I need to walk quietly so as not to wake Pedro. Long I read, and devotedly I gazed. Rapidly and gloriously the hours flew by, and the deep midnight came. The position of the candelabrum displeased me, and outreaching my hand with difficulty, rather than disturb my slumbering valet, I placed it so as to throw its rays more fully upon the book. But the action produced an effect altogether unanticipated. The rays of the numerous candles, for there were many, now fell within a niche of the room, which had hitherto been thrown into deep shade by one of the bedposts. I thus saw in vivid light the picture all unnoticed before. It was the portrait of a young girl just ripening into womanhood. I glanced at the painting hurriedly, and then closed my eyes. Why I did this was not at first apparent even to my own perception. But while my lids remained thus shut, I ran over in my mind my reason for so shutting them. It was an impulsive movement to gain time for thought, to make sure that my vision had not deceived me, to calm and subdue my fancy for a more sober and more certain gaze. In a very few moments I again looked fixedly at the painting. That I now saw aright I could not and would not doubt, for the first flashing of the candles upon that canvas had seemed to dissipate the dreamy stupor which was stealing over my senses, and to startle me at once into waking life. The portrait, I have already said, was that of a young girl. It was a mere head and shoulders, done in what is technically termed as vignette manner, much in the style of the favorite heads of Sally. The arms, the bosom, and even the ends of the radiant hair melted imperceptibly into the vague yet deep shadow which formed the background of the whole. The frame was oval, richly gilded and filigree in Moresque. As a thing of art, nothing could be more admirable than the painting itself, but it could have been neither the execution of the work, nor the immortal beauty of the countenance, which had so suddenly and so vehemently moved me. Least of all could it have been that my fancy, shaken from its half-slumber, had mistaken the head for that of a living person? I saw at once that the peculiarities of the design, of the vignetting and of the frame must have instantly dispelled such idea, must have prevented even its momentary entertainment. Thinking earnestly upon these points, I remained for an hour perhaps, half sitting, half reclining, with my vision riveted upon the portrait. At length, satisfied with the true secret of its effect, I fell back within the bed. I had found the spell of the picture in an absolute lifelikeliness of expression, which at first startling, finally confounded, subdued and appealed me. With deep and reverent awe I replaced the candelabrum in its former position. The cause of my deep agitation being thus shut from view, I sought eagerly the volume which discussed the paintings and their histories. Turning to the number which designated the oval portrait, I there read the vague and quaint words which follow. She was a maiden of rarest beauty and not more lovely than full of glee. And evil was the hour when she saw and loved and wedded the painter. He, passionate, studious, austere, and having already a bride in his heart, she, a maiden of rarest beauty and not more lovely than full of glee, all light and smiles, and frolicsome as the young fawn, loving and cherishing all things. Hating only the art which was her rival, dreading only the palette and brushes and other untoward instruments which deprived her of the countenance of her lover. It was thus a terrible thing for this lady to hear the painter speak of his desire to portray even his young bride. But she was humble and obedient, and sat meekly for many weeks in the dark, high-turret chamber, where the light dripped upon the pale canvas only from overhead. But he, the painter, took glory in his work, which went on from hour to hour and from day to day, and he was a passionate and wild and moody man who became lost in reveries, so that he would not see that the light which fell so ghastly in that lone turret withered the health and the spirits of his bride, who pined visibly to all but him. Yet she smiled on and still on, uncomplainingly, because she saw that the painter who had high renown took a fervid and burning pleasure in his task, and wrote day and night to depict her who so loved him, yet who grew daily more dispirited and weak. And in sooth, some who beheld the portrait spoke of its resemblance in low words, as of a mighty marvel, and the proof not less of the power of the painter than of his deep love for her whom he depicted so surpassingly well. But at length, as the labor drew nearer to its conclusion, there were admitted none into the turret, for the painter had grown wild with the ardor of his work and turned his eyes from canvas merely, even to regard the countenance of his wife. And he would not see that the tints which he spread upon the canvas were drawn from the cheeks of her who sat beside him. And when many weeks bed past, and but little remained to do, save one brush upon the mouth and one tint upon the eye, the spirit of the lady again flickered up, as the flame within the socket of the lamp. And then the brush was given, and then the tint was placed, and, for one moment, the painter stood entranced before the work which he had wrought. But in the next, while he had gazed, he grew tremulous and very pallid, and aghast and crying with a loud voice, "This is indeed life itself!" turned suddenly to regard his beloved. She was dead.